My name is Tianna, and I work for the Women's Business Center of North Carolina under the National Institute, which you can kind of see right. And I am the program director for the Women's Business Center of North Carolina. And that's my dog, Kiwi, that you might hear in the background. She's just yearning to get outside. But I'm so excited because the things that the Women's Business Center of North Carolina does is provide you all aspiring business entrepreneurs or maybe individuals who are currently in business with the tools and means to get more traction within their business. And what we're doing today is providing you all another great webinar with tools through Thread Capital. And so if you did not know, we have a wonderful partnership with Thread Capital. They have done so much great things for us in the community, and we continue to grow this partnership through different means such as our webinars and our events and so much more. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce Ms. Camila Molina that is representing Thread Capital today, and she's going to give you an overview and just a quick introduction about who she is, what she's doing, and then what's in store for today's webinar. So get ready, get engaged, and get excited. Camila, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for the introduction. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen just to make sure we've got that set. And throughout the presentation, I'm just operating on one screen, so I might not be able to see you guys immediately. But once I go through the slides and we kind of start a conversation, I'm happy to, I would love to see you guys on camera if you're able to, and that way we can have a good conversation. Can I get abilities to share my screen?
Yes, let me go ahead and do that right now for you.
Thank you.
Okay. You should be able to do it now. Give that a try.
Thanks so much. Okay. Tianna, can you see my slides? Awesome. Well, thank you so much to the Women's Business Center of North Carolina for inviting Thread Capital to speak today. As Tianna mentioned early on in the conversation, this is really a great opportunity for you guys to ask questions, to get more information about small business financing. My name is Camila. I'm a loan officer with Thread Capital. So I'm going to be giving you a little bit of an overview of our loan program and some of the other services that we offer. But I'm also going to mention some other resources that exist in North Carolina that can support your business either with financing or with small business coaching. So this is a really great opportunity just to kind of get an overview of what exists in the state for small business. So I usually like to start the conversation by comparing Thread Capital to a bank. I think most people, when they think of loans, either for their home or their car or small business, they traditionally think of a bank. So banks are for-profit institutions. Thread Capital is a nonprofit. So we exist exclusively to make small business loans in North Carolina. So we are a subsidiary of the North Carolina Rural Center. The Rural Center has been around for a long, long time. They started a micro enterprise program about 30 years ago, and it was originally meant to support small businesses in rural counties. There was so much need from that program that the Rural Center decided to basically start another nonprofit just to do small business lending. So that's where Thread Capital enters the conversation. We were founded in May of 2018. So we're a fairly new organization. We are based in Raleigh, but we operate in the entire state. We can serve both rural and urban counties. And we're really dedicated to support entrepreneurs that have a hard time getting financing through traditional sources, so a bank. And I'll kind of go into what are some of those factors that might influence a denial at a bank and how Thread Capital can support you, and how other nonprofits like Thread Capital exist in the state to either support your small business or if you've had past credit issues, etc. We can't do this work alone, so there are a lot of partners across the state. So I kind of want to provide an opportunity to talk a little bit about some of the partners that we work with. So that first row, that's going to be all of the technical assistance providers that exist. Well, not all, but some of them. The Women's Business Center of North Carolina can also be tacked on to that first row. But I'll start from kind of left to right. So the Small Business Technology and Development Centers are based out of the universities. And they provide small business coaching. They help you develop business plans. They help you get ready for small business financing. The one in the middle, the Small Business Center Network, they do similar work. These centers are based out of the community colleges, so there's quite a few of them across the state. And then EDPNC is a great resource for you if you have questions about types of licensing that you need for your business. They're a great resource. They have, I believe they have a 1-800 number. They have ways for like talking online, etc. So these are great opportunities that are available to you. They are no cost to you. These are paid by tax dollars or privately funded. So it doesn't cost you anything to speak with them. The middle row is super important because this is where we get all of our funding. So Thread Capital, like I mentioned, is a subsidiary of the North Carolina Rural Center. So we received our initial funding through the Rural Center. But we do have other partners that support our loan programs. We have the Golden Leaf Foundation, Truist, and Wells Fargo, who have given us grants in the past, either to put into our loan programs or to pay our staff or add more staff. So these are all great partners that help drive the work. That third row is also super important. So I would put Thread Capital's logo in that third row. These are all not all. These are some institutions that exist in North Carolina that have small business financing. So Thread Capital is just one of those options for small businesses. There are actually a lot of options, including the Institute. So I like to include all of these because it gives you an idea of some of the options that you have available. There are so many of them because there are different scenarios that they can support you with. So today I'm really going to focus on Thread's programs, but if you have questions about some of these other institutions, I'm happy to provide you information on how to get in contact with them and kind of where Thread fits in the ecosystem of all of these. So why does Thread exist? We understand that entrepreneurship can be an avenue for upward economic mobility. And we also know that in order to start your business, you need financing, but you also need social capital, you need connections, you need coaching, you need good advisors in your corner to help build a successful business. So Thread tries to meet those needs through our capital program, so our loan program, and then through coaching and connection services to put you in touch with the right folks and the right resources to help your business succeed. So I'm going to start off with our small business loan programs, and then I'll touch a little bit on our coaching and connection services. So today I'm really going to focus on our standard small business loan program, but I think it's also valuable for you all to know that we have a disaster recovery loan program that supports businesses that have experienced some sort of natural disaster. So we are able to support businesses that have had either an economic impact or a physical damage from Hurricanes Florence, Matthew, and Dorian. So although those hurricanes were a long time ago, that loan program is still active because businesses can still experience long-term effects from those disasters. That loan program is available for up to $250,000. And I'd like to mention that in case you know of anyone that's another small business owner that has experienced damage from any of those storms, that program is still available and active. Our small business loan program, the maximum loan size for that is $100,000. And that amount is available for existing businesses. So businesses that can show at least 1 year of documented revenue, either through their tax returns or through their bank statements, are eligible to apply for that amount. If you are a startup, so maybe you've been operating for about 3 months, so you don't have quite a year yet under your belt, that's what we would classify as a startup. That type of business is eligible to apply for up to $50,000. And for either of these buckets, so for startup or existing, Thread can cover equipment purchases, vehicle purchases. We can provide working capital loans. There are a few options on what we can cover. The important thing here is that the funds have to be used for the business, so they cannot be used for any personal purchases. Our loan terms are fairly short, so our loans can go up to 7 years, and that's kind of rare. We usually make smaller term loans because we want borrowers to be able to pay off the debt, quicker rather than extend it out for many years. So we see ourselves as a lender that's going to be part of the beginning of your journey in financing. And our goal is that, we can help you start your business, but eventually we want you to work your way up into getting a loan at a bank, because a bank is really going to get you the best type of financing. They're going to give you a really low rate, really great terms. So we want to help you get to that point. And in that same vein, we don't have any prepayment penalties. So if the borrower is able to pay the loan off early, that's great, and we support that. We won't penalize you for that. The programs are available for only for-profit institutions, and I'll get into a little bit about ineligible businesses in a little bit, but just keep that in mind. You have to be a for-profit institution to apply to our loan program. There are some lenders that exist in the state that can lend to nonprofits, and if you have questions about that, I can get into that in a little bit. Our interest rate is a flat 10.99%. So we've moved away from having a range of interest rates. We just have a flat 10.99% for no matter what your FICO score is. And the reason we've moved away from the range is we want to, our range was 10.99 to, I believe, 15.99. So we want to offer an interest rate that is still affordable, and it's still comparable to what interest rates exist in CDFI lending. Any money that we make off of our interest rates goes right back into our loan program. So any interest that you pay will help make another small business loan in the future. So some of the requirements for our loan program, as I mentioned, you have to be a for-profit business in North Carolina. So you don't have to live in North Carolina, but your business has to be established here. We want to support local economies. We want to support job growth. So that is a requirement we do not budge on. You have to be an adult, of course. We have to be able to see that you have enough income to support additional debt. And then as far as credit history, we want to see, what type of credit you've had in the past, how you paid your bills in the past. And if you have any collections or anything or any negative debt on your credit report, we really want to get more context about that. And if you have set up payment plans, etc. The main thing is with anything that's in collections or charged off, we want to see that you've taken some sort of action to rectify that debt. Some of the documents that we'll require throughout the application, of course, we're going to ask for tax returns. For both the personal and for the business. So if your business has been around for more than a year, we'll ask for your business tax returns. We will also ask for income documentation. So, from your full-time job or part-time job, we'll want to see, what your income is there. And if you pay yourself from the business, we want to make sure that, you're documenting that as well. If you are a startup, and I would start this, we are going to require a business plan. And this is pretty standard for all lenders. And sometimes lenders request a business plan even if you're not a startup. So this is a really helpful guide for the lender. This is what tells me that you've created a thoughtful plan on how you're going to be a viable business. You've thought about your competitors. You've thought about how your product or service is unique or stands out from what currently exists. A business plan is super important, and it's going to take you some time to produce because it's important to think about all the factors that are involved in starting the business. Okay, so there are some types of businesses that we can't support through our loan program. So nonprofits are one of the biggest, one of the more common ineligible businesses I see apply to our program. Unfortunately, we're not set up to support nonprofits, but there are some other lenders that can lend in that space. I believe self-help is one of them. Other types of businesses that are ineligible for our loan program, if you are buying real estate and flipping it and then reselling it, unfortunately, that's not a business that we can support. Other types of businesses are, if you lend money to other people, that would be ineligible, or multi-level sales businesses are also just not a business that we're able to support. Typically, our process from application to funding is about 30 days, but it really the timeline really depends on the borrower. So the longest time, as you can see, is that application to review and underwriting. So for underwriting, we're going to request financial statements that give us an idea of what your finances look like. We're going to ask for your tax returns, bank statements, and some of that information takes a while to gather. So that's usually the lengthiest part is getting all those documents together, getting ready for underwriting. Once we've gone through underwriting, there is a credit committee that will review the underwriter's recommendation. And the credit committee is the entity that will ultimately make a decision on the loan. So on average, we try to stick within that 30-day timeline, but it is really case by case. So sometimes funding can take a little bit longer than the 30 days, but we are here to support you. We're here to work as quickly as we can to help your business. We know that small businesses need financing today. So we do keep that in mind, and we try to work with you as much as we can. So this is a quote from Solange Thompson. She is one of our borrowers in Wilmington, North Carolina. And we love to talk about Solange because we have been able to see her growth since she became a client with us. So she originally applied through our disaster recovery loan program after Hurricane Florence passed through the coast. And during that time, she just needed working capital to restore some of the food that she lost because there were power outages. She had some fallen trees on the property. So she got financing through that program first just to recover from that storm. Her business rebounded very quickly. So she is a restaurant owner. So she, obviously needed to replace food and equipment, et cetera. The business has grown a lot over the years. So Indochine was the first location. I believe she now has 3 or 4 variations of Indochine. So some takeout places all across kind of like the Wilmington area. And she's come back to Thread Capital for some of those expansions. So we are very excited for Solange. We've seen her grow, and we've been able to support her as her as she's expanded to new locations. And she's just a really great example of a borrower who kind of understands what a lender is looking for. She knows we're going to look at tax returns. She knows that we're going to ask about, some of the existing debts for the business. And because we've been able to work with her over the years, we already have a lot of access to that information. So Solange is one of my favorite client stories to tell. Her restaurant is wonderful. If you plan on going to Wilmington, definitely check out Indochine. It's delicious Thai, Vietnamese food. So definitely check that out if you can. Okay, so I've talked a lot about our small business loan program, but as I mentioned earlier, there are two other services that we offer. One of those is connections. So I think half the battle is getting financing. And then the other difficult part about starting your business is knowing what resources exist to support you. So figuring out what licenses you need, figuring out how to secure a lease, who do you need to hire, or who should be on your team, if you're a trucker, how much should you charge per load? These are all questions that, of course, if you're new and you're starting, to develop your business, you need support on how to address some of those questions. So we rely on a lot of partners. Like I mentioned, some of the technical assistance partners that exist. We are happy to put you in touch with folks who have a lot of expertise in technical assistance, who can help you put together a business plan. It can help you address some of those larger questions on the viability of your business. Like I mentioned, if you need help, for example, hiring, or if you need a CPA, etc., we are actively updating our database on some of these complementary businesses. And we're happy to provide you some suggestions if you need guidance in any of those areas. Another area where we provide support is referring you to credit counseling services. So sometimes sometimes an applicant will submit an application and we'll see a couple of things on the credit report that can be improved, or we can identify that with some credit counseling, the FICO score can improve significantly. That's when we'll suggest working with a credit counselor, not only to help you move on with our loan program, but overall for just for your personal finances and for your business growth. We're going to refer you to a business counselor who can help you put together strategies on how to address some of the negative debt on the credit report. So another service that we offer is coaching. So we offer high-level coaching to basically anybody who gets in contact with us. You don't have to submit an application for us to assist you. Anybody who calls us or reaches out to us via email about questions on a business plan or projections, we're happy to give you some feedback, some high-level feedback on what you may already have worked on. If we see, for example, that there's an area for improvement, we'll give you next steps and provide an action plan on what to do, and we'll follow up with you. We'll check in maybe in 2 or 3 weeks to see how you're doing. But mainly, we're here to support you with whatever questions you might have. So we try to give you a starting point, some guidance, and then if you come back to us, we're happy to give you further recommendations. And part of our coaching services includes webinars like this. So this is a great opportunity to just have a larger setting to ask questions and give a good overview of how to prepare for small business financing.
Camila, I think you froze there. Hold on. I think she might be having some connection issues. One moment, you guys, as we get
know who's going to be on your team. There's going to be a lot of like personal questions that I'm going to ask your previous job history and how you're going to apply that. So as you're getting ready to apply for small business financing, definitely do your homework. Think about how this lender will be a good fit for you and really sell the idea of your business, because that's part of your job, is to help me understand how this is going to be a viable business. Okay, I'm going to hover on this slide so you guys can jot down our website. You have my email address there and my phone number. And then I see some folks have already put questions in the chat. So I'm going to go ahead and start addressing those.
Yes. And so after we get over, firstly, thank you, Camila, so much for this great information. A lot of people don't know everything that you just said, and the fact that it's even available to them. So thank you so much for all that you do with Third Capital and then this wonderful presentation. And so as Camila goes over the questions that are in the chat, we have a few of them there. We have about 30 minutes on the dot for a Q&A session. So if there's anyone after we go over these questions that are in the chat that has some questions, I would ask a few things of you. Firstly, please make your question specific to something that was in the presentation, so that we're not kind of guessing where you're coming from or what exactly your question is. So just please have a specific question for Camila. And then secondly, when you unmute yourself, please introduce yourself, your business, and then go into your question so that anyone who wants to network with you knows what you do and where you're representing. So we'll go through these questions and then we'll probably take about 5 before we end today.
Thank you. I see in the chat, so the first 2 questions are pretty similar. So the first one is this only for businesses based out of NC? My business is based out of Atlanta. And then similar question, what about businesses in NC, but the current project is in another state? So for both of those scenarios, we could work with you if the business is located in North Carolina. So unfortunately for the business out of Atlanta, we wouldn't be able to support. But the business that is currently in South Carolina and is planning on to move on in North Carolina, once you are here in the state, we can certainly support you. And even before then, like if you get in contact with us and you kind of tell us and pitch us your idea, we can maintain a constant communication so that we can support you once you are here. So that requirement is like I said, we can't really budge on that. Our funding is tied to businesses that are in North Carolina. So any funding that we receive from our donors, all of that is tied to that requirement that the business has to be based in the state. Okay, and then I see another question here about, this is about SBA. So is the small business loan an SBA loan? No, great question. So we are not an SBA lender. We are not a large enough institution to participate in SBA-backed loans, but there are other nonprofits that do make SBA-backed loans. So it's like a multi-part question. How long does it typically take to close? I own a 3-year-old business in North Carolina. Gotcha. So for if you're specifically looking for a loan backed by the SBA, I'd have to refer you to another lender. Maybe we can connect offline and I can get a little bit more insight into what you're trying to do. And that way I can put you in touch with a lender that is a good fit for you. So Autumn, maybe we can connect offline on this question. And then Marquetta asked, what about for-profit community development corporations who also do real estate? For our program, I don't think we could support that. But Tianna, correct me if I'm wrong, does the Institute provide loans for this type of project?
Yes, we actually have ICAP. That definitely helps small businesses like that. And so you would go through a similar application process. I do think we have two of our loan officers on the call right now, but you could also do that through ICAP. I'll put the information and their website in the chat for you.
Thank you. Okay, and then Monica put in the chat if there is a minimum FICO score. So that we actually don't have a minimum FICO score, and that is intentional. Typically, borrowers who we are supporting have had past credit issues. So for that reason, we don't have a minimum FICO score. There are a lot of factors that can influence your credit, like if you go through a divorce or a medical emergency or just big life events like that, that can significantly impact your FICO score. So for that reason, we don't have, but other lenders might have, or we just particularly don't. And then the second part to that question is, can the funds be used to buy a business from someone else? Yes. We have done a couple of loans like this where, for example, a restaurant, the general manager wants to buy the restaurant from the current owner. In that case, we would treat the new interested buyer, we would treat them as a startup, and we would look at the financials of the business to see how it's performed in the past. And you can use the funds to purchase the business from the current owner. So we've done deals like that in the past. I think what you should keep in mind here is the maximum that we would be able to lend in that scenario. So like I mentioned earlier, our maximum amount is $50,000 for a startup. So it would have to fit within that budget. And then Melvin asked, what government or commercial connections would you have for Raleigh, North Carolina for fleet mobile detailing? Melvin, can you be a little bit more specific about what you mean with commercial connections? Maybe we can come back to this question. Okay, Siobhan asked, what is the max funding amount? Do you find acquisitions someone trying to buy a small business in need of financing? So in this case, again, we would treat this as a startup. So if you're buying the business from another person, it would have to fit within that $50,000 budget. And it would be treated as a startup. So you would be required to provide a business plan, projections, etc. And then no worries, I can repeat the terms and the interest rate. So our interest rate is a flat 10.99%. So it's not a variable rate, it's a fixed rate. And the terms can go up to 84 months. The terms are decided based on how you're going to use the funds. So if you need a working capital loan, the terms will be short. If you're planning on buying an asset, the terms will typically be longer. Siobhan asked, do I have recommendations on CPA or tax strategists? Yes, so we can connect offline about this. We are working on a database of services like this. So we have a couple already vetted. So I'm happy to share that with you via email on some providers that we've already vetted. So Siobhan, if you can just jot down my email address and then shoot me that same question, I'm happy to provide further guidance on that. Okay, Tanisha asked, does SBA offer grant opportunities at all? Good question. I'm not very familiar with SBA programs, so I'm not sure if Tianna can provide some guidance here, or maybe some of the loan officers with the Institute, because I'm not familiar with grant programs through the SBA.
So the SBA does offer grant opportunities, and I was actually just getting ready to respond to your question, Siobhan. So I'm going to post the link in the chat. We do have info sessions with the SBA that are specific to their services that they offer, and so you'll probably get just a little bit more information in one of those sessions. Whereas today we're talking specifically about Thread Capital, but please visit that link and then also request with us so that we can help you with loan packaging and grant packaging assistance.
Thank you. Okay, so Tracy is asking, I said 50, so 50,000 available for startups. I have a terrible habit of not enunciating, so I'm sorry about that. Okay, so Melanie says, I'm a ballroom dance studio that is pivoting to do more private events. Been doing this for 20 years now. Okay, yeah, and you're in Raleigh, lost a lot of business due to COVID and not getting much PPP. Okay, so I need to consolidate my high interest credit cards, update space. Yes, so this is something that we've worked with in the past. So if you have some high interest credit card debt that you've used for the business, we can consider consolidating that, especially if the interest rate that you're paying on your credit cards is significantly higher than that 10.99%. The important factor here is that we need to be able to show that whatever is on the credit cards was used for the business. So we will have to look at receipts because, again, our program is tied to small business. So even though you use your personal credit cards, we can still support that. We just have to show that the business, the credit cards were used for the business. And for expansions to new or bigger spaces, that's also something that we can support you with. So it just kind of depends on the total amount that you are looking for. So you've been operating for a long time now. So you are eligible to apply for up to 100,000. And then again, the approval and all of that is done through underwriting and after they've done a cash analysis. And they would basically take a look at the total debt that you have or that you want to pay off. And they would consider what your new loan payment would be with us versus that high interest payment that you're making to the credit cards. So Melanie, we can also connect offline. So please jot down my email address or my phone number and we can talk a little bit more in depth about that. Okay, so Melvin, you typed in connecting with decision makers in corporations that are in need of fleet detailing. Could you maybe unmute yourself and kind of walk me through your question here? That might be a little easier than the back and forth on chat.
Yes, I'm gonna let my lady speak. Here she go.
Hi, how you doing?
Hey, good. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. So I guess what he's asking is, so he is a fleet detailer. So are you familiar with like how fleet detailing works? Basically you just detail fleet cars for like corporations.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. So the decision makers that are able to say, hey, we can put this in the budget or we can pay you. He's saying that he needs help with that part. Are you guys able to help with that?
Oh, okay. I see. So talking to potential customers or like companies that you want to service and pitching your service to them and getting basically hiring you as like to clean the fleet.
Right.
Okay.
Right. But see, the thing about it is we don't want to talk to just anyone. We need to talk to decision makers, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'm probably not the I don't have an exact answer right now, but our coaching and connections manager, Tosh Comer, she might have some ideas on how you can get in contact with those decision makers. I haven't personally dealt in with that particular scenario, but we can certainly get in contact with Tosh and see if she's got any recommendations there. But I get what you're saying. Like, you want to make sure that you are getting in contact with the people who can actually make the decision on hiring you as a service. I think the first thing that comes to mind is having anecdotes ready about the current businesses that you've already serviced. And really using the customer experience to sell your product. But again, we can talk to our coaching and connections manager who might have some more feedback on that.
Yes, and I would add in there, it may be good if you could consider getting certified with the state of North Carolina, as well as doing an NC Hub certification. There are bidding opportunities available, and that will actually put you directly in contact with the Hub with the
so we are Hub certified. And one thing about it, so with fleet detailing or mobile detailing, that particular NACIS code does not come up. So we have to do a lot of cold calling and just, kind of getting in touch with decision makers, if that makes sense. Because if you look right now on the Hub site, you won't see a car wash, procurement. They don't typically put those types of bids out. This is like something where we have to like get in touch with them and tell them what we do and, kind of go from there.
And you haven't done bids under transportation?
I don't know about that. If you can give any resources for that, that's fine. But I know for sure, anytime that he's called or he's tried to do business, they said that they already have someone who's doing that. But in certain instances, like he's been able to merge contracts with, different transportation agencies. But he's done that by getting in touch with decision makers, that type of thing. But there's no bids. If you type in the car wash NACIS code, I promise you won't find it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to put in the chat to talk more with you in depth on this, and then also connect you with Tosh Comer and see how we can get you the resources that you're needing. I know that there definitely is opportunities for what you're doing. We've had contractors with coffee with contractors, and we literally talked about what it is that you're doing. So I want to give that to you in more detail, and then also save some time for other questions that we might have. So we have about 15 minutes left. You can continue putting your questions in the chat, or as I said before, you can come off mute, introduce yourself and your business, and ask your question. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, I think I've got 2 questions left in the chat, and then again, we invite you guys to unmute if you've got any other questions. So Siobhan is asking if Thread has a forum for small businesses to connect or share their info on their services or products. So not yet. So, and this is something we are currently working on, is having a database available online where you can search for the type of business or the type of service that you're looking for, and hopefully we'll have a mixture of Thread clients and also other local small businesses. So currently we don't have that, but Siobhan, if you want to send me an email, I'm happy to connect, and we have an internal database where like if a client is looking for a CPA or any other type of business service, we have a couple of options for them to check out. So feel free to connect with me, and that way we can certainly have another conversation about adding you to that database. Okay, and then Kristen, I'm not sure if this was a comment or a question. The amalgamation is a community of small DVEs. I'm not sure what that was in reference to.
It was in reference to the question about connecting small businesses. The amalgamation is a Raleigh-based organization that connects DBEs across the country.
Awesome. Do you have a link that you can drop in the chat for that?
Yep, I'll do that now. Thanks.
Thanks. And I think we've covered everything in the chat. Can you reshare your contact information? Yes. Let me just go ahead and put my slides back up. And that way you have our website, my email, and my phone number.
I'm also putting it in the chat just in case anyone wants to copy and paste it. All right. Okay. All right. So also in the chat is the contact information for the Women's Business Center of North Carolina. I've attached a link where you can request counseling from our business counselors, and then also our phone and email address. So if you're looking to get just a little bit more in depth, I know we had some questions that required some deeper insight, and we would love to have just a full-on hour of time dedicated to you and your specific business need. And the way to do that is through requesting counseling and then also reaching out to Camila. So we can take probably about 1 or 2 more questions. If there's anything maybe you need clarification on, or if you do have another question, you can pop it in the chat or we invite you to unmute.
I'd like to unmute really quickly. I am Truth Can Do, poet and also editor, formatter, and publisher. I just want to know, when I was reading when you all were talking about the startup for the small business, I saw that you said that you would like them to, or you would like us to have like bank statements from full-time or part-time job. Like how long, or can you kind of elaborate on that a little bit more? Like how many months or?
Yeah, for pay stubs. So there isn't like a specific timeline of how long we want to see that you've been employed. So the important thing is that you have a steady source of income right now, and that you expect to continue to receive that income for at least the next 6 months. So depending on the loan size that you are requesting, we might ask for 2 pay stubs or 3 pay stubs, and those will be like the most recent ones. So if you just started a new job, I would wait to have at least 2 pay stubs under your belt to be able to provide that to the underwriter. The thing with offer letters is that we can't really see what deductions are going to take place. So a pay stub will tell us what your net take home pay is. And that's really the value that the underwriter is going to focus on in the analysis.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Can take a couple more questions.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Tianna, did you say you had Tasha's contact info handy?
I have it in my emails, but I can go ahead and
I can do that too. I mentioned her, so I wanted to provide her information as well. Let me just look that up real quick. So Tosh Comer is our coaching and connections manager. We can do the one-on-one counseling. We can also loop in Tosh for that counseling. So I can provide her contact information as well.
Found it out. I just
okay.
The chat.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Let me get her. Wait, no. Her email. Okay. Any other questions before we close out? I think it's looking like we will be able to give you all 9 minutes back of your time. Going once. Going twice. All right. Well, thank you so much again for being here. We had about 30 people in this chat, and we are just thankful that we were able to have someone and a professional like Camila Molina, who does this on a regular basis, to just drop some knowledge for us and share with us just her golden nuggets. So please share your gratitude with Camila in the chat, and don't forget to get in contact with her. All right. Normally we say, okay, I'm going to follow up with that person, and then we don't. But we've actually given you our contact information. So please copy and paste it, send us an email, request counseling, look at the links, and do not let any lag time hold you back from moving your business forward. There's a wonderful opportunity with Thread Capital through the services that they offer. And we really hope that this would propel you to take hold of what it is that they're offering, as well as what the Women's Business Center offers. So we hope that this really helped you and blessed you, and that you have more information to increase and scale your business. So we're going to go ahead and close. This session was recorded. It will be available on our YouTube page. That's the Women's Business Center of North Carolina via YouTube. We'll also post a recap on Facebook. So if you maybe are wanting to watch it again and maybe go over this presentation, you will have a copy of it via YouTube and our Facebook page. We would please ask you that you would like our page, you would follow us, and then also share this information so that your network of entrepreneurs can have access to it as well. All right, well, Camila, I'll give you the floor for any concluding comments that you would like to share before we close.
Thank you. I just wanted to echo that. Thank you for your time, for asking questions, and for looking at resources that can support your business. And I'm going to be checking my email. I've got my phone next to me. So if you've got questions, feel free to get in contact with me. I'm happy to support you however I can.
All righty, everyone. Well, I see your thank yous in the chat, and you all have a wonderful day, and we'll see you in the next WBCNC webinar. Bye.